This is a film about the pursuit of perfection in food. She takes cooking extremely seriously, even to the point of obsession. Every dish must be precise down to the smallest detail, and the entire kitchen is run under her strict control. Many guests come specifically to taste her cooking, but no matter how good the food is, there will always be picky customers. Once, a guest complained that the steak was not rare enough. She immediately picked up a piece of raw beef and walked straight toward the customer.
Rare enough for you?
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, that's why I'm in therapy.
I'm so sorry.
Her harshness is not just a professional habit, it is also a way to protect herself. After her mother passed away, she poured all her energy into work. The world outside the kitchen became like a lonely island to her. She has no lover, no friends, and her only concern is her sister. One day, she suddenly receives news that her sister has died in a car accident. She rushes to the hospital and sees her 10-year-old niece, Zoe, lying on the bed, crying in grief. The softest part of Kate's heart is touched, and she cannot hold back her tears. With such a tragedy at home, the restaurant suddenly loses its backbone. Everyone assumes Kate will quit her job to take care of Zoe, but instead, she changes her clothes and returns to the kitchen. She tries to soothe her pain through cooking, but the grief is too heavy. While preparing ingredients, she keeps losing focus and has to hide in the walk-in refrigerator to pull herself together. When she finds the letter her sister had written in advance, she finally breaks down and cries. In the letter, her sister says that if one day she is gone, she hopes Kate will take care of her child. The owner notices that Kate is not herself. He holds her hand and tells her to take an immediate leave. This time, the always tough Kate does not refuse. For Zoe's sake, she has to step out of the kitchen. With no experience in caring for a child, Kate becomes Zoe's guardian and brings her, along with all her belongings, home. She takes care of Zoe attentively, but Zoe, who has just lost her mother, becomes sensitive and withdrawn. Even when Kate cooks her signature dishes, Zoe refuses to eat a single bite and quietly returns to her room. After her leave ends, Kate returns to the restaurant and finds that business is even better than before. Curious, she walks into the kitchen and sees a strange man directing the staff while happily singing. His name is Nick. His style is the complete opposite of Kate's, relaxed, passionate, and fond of improvisation. He even brings energy to the whole team. Nick's arrival makes Kate feel threatened for the first time. She complains to the owner, but he says,
We were lucky to get him. The Peninsula offered an executive chef.
Why didn't he take it?
Because he said he wanted to work with you.
An angry Kate walks back into the walk-in refrigerator, hoping the cold air will help her calm down. Unexpectedly, Nick follows her inside.
Look, I don't need this job. I can work wherever I want. I'd like to work here because it's an honor to cook with you. But I'd rather work somewhere I'm welcome. So if you want me to go, you just say the word.
When the owner rushes in, Nick has already taken off his apron and is ready to leave. The owner tries hard to persuade him to stay, saying the restaurant needs him, but Nick says he will respect Kate's decision. Kate feels guilty. She hesitates for a moment before speaking.
Seems you've left me no choice.
You want me to stay?
Didn't I just say that?
I didn't hear those words.
I want you to stay.
Love to.
This argument actually eases the tension between them. After work, Kate returns home and sees a messy dining table and cigarette ash. She rushes to Zoe's room and finds her trembling under the bed. Kate realizes she should never have let a stranger take care of the child. She decides to bring Zoe to the restaurant instead. Everyone there likes her. When Nick hears that Zoe is a picky eater, he brings a plate of pasta and eats it happily in front of her, then hands her the plate. The smell tempts Zoe into taking a bite, and soon she is eating big mouthfuls. Kate happens to see this scene. From that moment on, Kate's feelings toward Nick quietly begin to change. That night, as she carries the sleeping Zoe out, she deliberately says to Nick, "Good night." In the days that follow, Zoe often comes to the kitchen. Nick teaches her how to choose ingredients and dances with her. Zoe finds happiness there and slowly seems to come out of her grief. Kate also starts tasting Nick's dishes and sometimes smiles and nods in approval. Zoe notices that Nick likes Kate, so she says she wants to eat Italian food made by Nick over the weekend. Nick happily brings the ingredients. Zoe acts as his little helper and mysteriously tells Kate to wait in her room. When Kate comes out, she sees a table full of beautifully prepared Italian dishes. That evening, the three of them spend a very warm and happy time together. After Zoe falls asleep from playing, Nick carries her back to her room like a father. As Kate and Nick clean up the kitchen, they have their first real heart-to-heart conversation. They talk about Kate's late mother and Nick's grandmother's recipes. Kate realizes that she has already fallen for Nick. Nick takes out a box of tiramisu and says he made it especially for her. As Kate tastes it, Nick gently wipes the cream from the corner of her mouth. The atmosphere becomes subtle. They look at each other, and just as Kate is about to lean in for a kiss, Nick stands up and says, "It's time to go." This restraint makes Kate feel even more drawn to him. After that, they go on dates like an ordinary couple. They drink red wine and chat in the kitchen, getting to know each other better. Because Zoe keeps falling asleep in class, Kate is called to the school by the teacher. It turns out Zoe wakes up early every day to go buy ingredients with Kate, and at night she helps out at the restaurant, leaving her short on sleep. The teacher warns that if this continues, child services will be notified, and Kate may lose custody. When Kate talks to Zoe about it, Zoe breaks down emotionally and runs away crying. She has always felt like a burden, afraid that if she doesn't help, she will be abandoned. Only then does Kate realize that although she has been trying hard to protect Zoe, Zoe has never truly accepted her. Late at night, Kate sees Zoe sitting alone on the carpet, watching old videos of her mother on TV, tears filling her eyes. Kate quietly stays with her. The next day, Kate gently wakes Zoe for school. Zoe says she doesn't want to go. Kate realizes she doesn't want to go to work either. For the first time in her life, Kate, who always puts work first, asks the restaurant for a day off. She spends the whole day with Zoe, doing things children enjoy. The house hasn't been this lively in a long time, and Zoe slowly begins to accept her aunt from the heart. Kate also brings Zoe along when she goes on dates with Nick. But the happiness doesn't last long. New problems arise at the restaurant. Nick's cooking is gaining more and more recognition, and the owner wants him to take over Kate's position. Nick says he will respect Kate's wishes, but the owner clearly favors Nick. He even asks Nick, not Kate, to go greet the guests. Kate is very unhappy. They cook together, yet the owner only sends Nick out to face the customers.
I don't care who goes out there, but if it is you, do me a favor and try not to stab anyone who complains.
Kate confronts Nick, and Nick admits that the owner did talk to him. They go into the walk-in refrigerator to talk privately.
Why didn't you have the guts just to run your own kitchen, Nick? Instead of coming in here and taking over mine.
Is that what you think?
That's exactly what I think.
It's okay to let people in sometimes. Maybe one of these days you'll figure that out.
For Kate, the kitchen is everything. It is the source of her sense of security. But Nick encourages her to step out of her own world and see more of what life has to offer. Because of this, the two of them fall into conflict.
Oh, and for the record, I did turn her down.
To prove that he never wanted to replace Kate, Nick chose to leave. The boss asked Kate to find a replacement, but after interviewing many people, none of them satisfied her. Zoe didn't know what had happened between the adults. She only wanted to know why Nick no longer came to see her. After Kate told her the truth, Zoe said nothing and went back to her room. The next morning, Kate found that Zoe was gone. She searched the school but couldn't find her and hurriedly called Nick. The two of them looked for all the places Zoe often went. Nick tried to comfort Kate, saying maybe Zoe had already gone home. Kate rushed back home. The house was empty. Only Zoe's favorite doll was left on the bed. Suddenly, Kate realized that Zoe might be at her mother's grave. They finally found her there. Zoe was afraid that she would forget her mother, so she came to this place. Kate hugged her and said softly,
We can come here whenever you want, okay?
The sadness of losing a loved one never truly disappears, but those who are still alive must carry the memories and keep moving forward. After Nick drove them home, Kate apologized for the things she had said before. Nick was not angry at all. Instead, he thanked Kate for waking him up and giving him the courage to pursue what he truly wanted. Nick decided to become the head chef at a new restaurant. Kate didn't have the courage to ask him to stay. They shook hands and said goodbye, and from then on, they lost contact. Kate thought everything would return to the way it was, but her performance at work kept getting worse. The kitchen without Nick felt like something was missing. She finally realized that Nick had already entered her heart. Kate went to see a therapist. She often wondered if life had a fixed manual. Would it help people avoid regret? But the therapist said to her,
What I was going to say was, you know better than anyone. It's the recipes you create yourself that are the best.
Those words woke Kate up. Love, like cooking, has no standard answer, but it always requires courage and sincerity. She had always used self-protection as an excuse, hiding her softness behind precise cooking skills. After figuring it out, she brought the food she made herself and went to find Nick. She took the initiative to walk toward the person she had once pushed away, speaking in a gentleness she had never shown before.
I think you should know there's something else I never do.
What's that?
I never invite myself into a man's apartment, blindfold him and feed him saffron sauce while begging him not to go to San Francisco.
You never do that?
Never.
It's too bad.
At the end of the movie, Kate no longer obsessed over the perfect menu. She opened a small restaurant together with Nick and Zoe. Kate became the boss, and Zoe also helped in the restaurant. The restaurant was named after the three of them. The beauty of life comes from the warmth brought by love and companionship. Just like what the therapist said, you know better than anyone the recipes you create yourself are the best. There is no standard answer in life, but it always requires a brave and sincere heart. When we are willing to open ourselves and let love into our lives, even ordinary days can create the most beautiful flavor. The best recipe for life is to put your heart into everything right in front of you.